Let's build Vi from League of Legends and the Netflix show Arcane in Dungeons & Dragons. And if you don't want to miss any possible updates, feel free to subscribe. It really helps the channel and helps the algorithm. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't wind up missing anything. But let's go ahead and dive into the build. Starting with the species, we're going to go pretty simple and just go with the human. This gives us 1 skill proficiency, so we're going to grab Arcana just because of the show Arcane. And we're granted a feat right away. This has to be an origin feat, so we're going to grab the feat Tough. You're a jungler. Being able to jump in and survive while dealing a bunch of damage is kind of part of the deal. So Tough gives us an extra 2 hit points of health per level of this overall build. Then when it comes to your background, judging by her history, I think it's pretty safe to go with a Wayfarer. This is one of the newer backgrounds in 2024, and it's all about growing up on the streets and how you handled your life growing up in those conditions. This gives us proficiency in stealth, and we get to choose 1 more skill, so we'll grab acrobatics, and it grants us the lucky feat. So you now have a number of luck points equal to your proficiency bonus, and you can spend those to give yourself advantage or give an enemy disadvantage, regaining all of your luck points when you finish a long rest. And then when it comes to your ability scores, we're going to have a point spread that looks like this. We need to lean a certain way here, and it's pretty obvious we're going to be doing lots of punching, so diving into dexterity and wisdom really helps us dive into being a monk. Now we'll make sure to focus somewhat on the core abilities that she has in League of Legends. She can shield herself in some ways. She has Vault Breaker, so she can dash forward and hit somebody really hard. She can deal bonus damage by denting somebody's armor, and she's got Relentless Force, so she can actually damage somebody further away than just a normal punch. Then her final ability is she can jump into the air and slam down pretty darn hard. But we can get all of those just by being our monk. And it really helps that the monk got a massive improvement in 2024. Once we become a monk, we get proficiency in a couple skills, so we're going to grab athletics and insight. We get the feature martial arts, so now we can punch much better, and this definitely got an improvement in 2024. It used to start off with a D4 of damage, which really kind of sucked, so now it gives you a D6 of damage to start off, and you can use your strength or dexterity for your attacks. And on top of everything else, you get the feature Dexterous Attack, so whenever you make an attack action on your turn using a monk weapon or just your straight up fists, well, you can go ahead and make an additional attack as a bonus action for free. But this one has to be an unarmed strike. And then they added to this in 2024 because now you can use your dexterity modifier to grapple or shove your enemies if you want to do so. So if you want to be more of like a grappler or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specialist, now you have that ability. Also at first level of monk, you get the feature unarmored defense. So your armor class equals 10 plus your dexterity modifier plus your wisdom modifier. Then at second level of monk, you get monk's focus, which replaced your basic abilities of ki in previous versions. You have a number of focus points equal to your level in monk. You have flurry of blows, allowing you to spend 1 focus point to have 2 unarmed strikes as part of your bonus action instead of just 1. You have patient defense, which allows you to take the disengage action as a bonus action without spending a focus point now. But if you do spend a focus point, you can take both the disengage and dodge action as a bonus action. And then Step of the Wind allows you to dash as a bonus action for free, but if you spend 1 focus point, you get the disengage and dash action as your bonus action, and your jump distance is doubled for the turn. So if you do want to launch yourself up in the air and come down with a big punch, you can now do that. Also at second level of monk, you get unarmored movement. So as long as you're not wearing any armor, you get a plus 10 to your movement speed, which does upgrade as you level up in monk. Going to a bonus 15 feet at level 6, 20 feet at level 10, 25 feet at level 14, and then maxing out at a bonus 30 feet at level 18. And the last feature you get at second level, which this level is loaded up for monks, is uncanny metabolism. So when you roll initiative, you can actually regain all of your monk focus points. And on top of that, when you do that, you can actually roll 1 roll of your martial arts die and add that to your level in monk and regain that number of hit points. You can only use this feature once per long rest, but that is a massive boost to the amount of focus points that you have access to. Then at third level of monk, you get deflect attacks. So when an attack roll hits you that in any way includes bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage, you can use your reaction to reduce the amount of damage you would take. The reduction equals a 1d10 plus your dexterity modifier plus your monk level. And if you reduce it to 0, you can actually spend a focus point to redirect that attack towards somebody else. And it now specifies that if it was a melee attack, which before you could only deflect missiles, but now you can deflect all types of attacks, that attack can then hit somebody within 5 feet of you. But if it was a ranged attack, you can actually target somebody within 60 feet as you redirect that attack all the way over to them. That creature must then make a dexterity saving throw or take 2 rolls of your martial arts die plus your dexterity modifier as damage. But the damage type is the same as whatever the attack was. Then the next thing you get at 3rd level of monk is a monk subclass. And we need to focus on the absolutely massive arms that she has that are giant glove things, and she has additional reach beyond that. Now, I was tempted to jump into the new elemental monk that is actually a massive improvement on the old one, but I think it's a little more fitting to dive into Tasha's Cauldron of Everything and grab a monk that is the way of the astral self, because right away, this feature gives you arms of the astral self. So you can spend 1 focus point to summon those giant gauntlets that you have, allowing you to use your wisdom modifier for any of your attack and damage rolls if you want to. Those gauntlets are summoned for 1 minute, and once they are active, you can actually use your wisdom modifier for your attack and damage rolls with your unarmed strikes. You can also use that wisdom modifier for any grapple checks that you want to make, because you can now replace any strength checks and strength saving throws with your wisdom modifier, which is very, very helpful because wisdom is one of our main stats as a monk. And one of the core features of this character is that her range is increased when she's attacking with her fists. So this allows us to do that because now your range is increased by 5 feet with your unarmed strikes. And because we have so much relying on wisdom now, that's going to be our main focus as we hit level 4, which gives us an ability score improvement. So we're going to put 2 points into wisdom. While dexterity will still help our deflect attacks, there's a lot of other benefits of focusing more on wisdom here. Also at 4th level of monk, you get slow fall. So you can reduce any fall damage you would take as a reaction by an amount equal to 5 times your monk level. Then at 5th level of monk, you get access to the all-important extra attack, which is very important for any martial character, allowing you to attack 2 times per action. Also at 5th level of monk, you get stunning strike. This is now limited to once per turn. As a DM, I kind of appreciate, because I used to get pretty annoyed when somebody would use flurry of blows and be able to attack me over and over again, forcing constant saving throws, because this allows you to force a creature to make a constitution saving throw, and if they fail, they're stunned. And that stunned condition lasts until the start of your next turn. But the fact that it's only once per turn is helped out a little bit by the changes they made to this feature. Because even if they succeed on that constitution saving throw, which by the way, that con save is versus your wisdom DC, so focusing on wisdom is going to be very helpful for stunning strikes. But even if they do succeed, their speed is still halved until the start of your next turn. And on top of that, the next attack made against that creature before your next turn happens is going to be at advantage. And finally, there's one more boost at level 5, which is that your martial arts die increases from a D6 to a D8. Then at 6th level of monk, your unarmed strike damage can be either its normal type of damage or force damage. And pretty much nothing is resistant to force damage, so that's super helpful. Also at 6th level of monk, you get Visage of Astral Self from being an astral monk. And considering most of the time this character is a jungler in League of Legends, this is going to be a little more helpful. So as an additional bonus action, or as part of the bonus action to summon your arms in the first place, you can spend 1 focus point, and you get a visage that can cover your head or just your eyes like a mask or a helmet. This grants you astral sight, so you can place down a sentry and it really helps you out. You have advantage on insight and perception checks, and you get word of the spirit, allowing you to talk to a creature within 60 feet of you with no one else hearing. Or you can just shout so everybody within 600 feet can hear you. This is like typing in League of Legends chat, whether you want to whisper to somebody directly or spew tons of gaming rage like I've always experienced almost every time I've played League of Legends. Then at 7th level of monk, you get evasion. So anytime you are required to make a dexterity saving throw to prevent some damage, you automatically take half damage. And if you succeed on the saving throw, you take 0 damage. But you have to make sure you're not incapacitated for this feature to take effect. Then at 8th level of monk, you get another ability score improvement. So let's go ahead and boost up our wisdom again. And at 9th level of monk, monk, you get acrobatic movement. So you gain the ability to run up vertical surfaces or across liquids during your movement on the turn. But the wording of this now clarifies that it's only during that movement. So you got to make sure you wrap up whatever movement you do by the end of that turn. Otherwise, you're falling. At 10th level of monk, you get heightened focus. So you get a bunch of bonuses here. One can be to your flurry of blows. So now spending 1 focus point doesn't just give you 2 attacks as your bonus action, it gives you 3. Then your patient defense is upgraded because if you expend a focus point to activate your patient defense, on top of the original benefits, you also get some temporary hit points equal to 2 rolls of your martial arts die. Then lastly, your Step of the Wind gets upgraded as well. So now you can grab somebody and bring them with you when you're running away, as long as they are a large or smaller creature that is willing to do so. And neither one of you provoke opportunity attacks during this time. So if you're on the front line and stuff's just really starting to get a little too real, grab them and run. Almost like you're using your flash ability in League of Legends and just having somebody else do it at the same time because hopefully you have some good teammates. Also at 10th level of monk, you get self-restoration. So purely through force of will, you can remove a condition on yourself. So at the end of each of your turns, you can remove charmed, frightened, or poisoned from yourself. And on top of that, if you don't eat or drink, you don't suffer a level of exhaustion, as I would definitely know firsthand from my long nights of binging League of Legends and forgetting to eat. Then at 11th level of monk, your martial arts die upgrades from a D8 to a D10, which used to take way longer to get that high in older versions of Dungeons & Dragons. But on top of that, you also get another feature from your subclass called Body of the Astral Self. So summoning your arms or your visage, you can also summon this at the same time or as a separate bonus action. Either way, it's going to cost you a focus point. And it covers your entire body in some sort of armor or spectral stuff to help protect you, granting you the feature Deflect Energy. So if you were going to take acid, cold, fire, lightning, force, or thunder damage, you can use your reaction to deflect it, which is very nice because that means this fills in all the other gaps of your deflect attack ability. But when you do deflect this, you can't project it at somebody else. It just allows you to use your reaction to reduce the amount of damage you took by 1d10 plus your wisdom modifier. But at least it doesn't cost you any additional focus points. The other feature you get is Empowered Arms. So when you hit somebody with your arms of the astral self, you can deal additional damage equal to 1 roll of your martial arts die. But you can only do that once per turn. Then at 12th level of monk, you get another ability score improvement, so it's time to finally start improving our dexterity. And then at 13th level of monk, you get Deflect Energy. So now this fills in any additional gaps that you possibly wanted, because your Deflect Attacks ability allowed you to redirect the damage from physical types of attacks. But now you can redirect that damage from any type of damage, whether it's elemental or force or physical or whatever. It follows the same rules as the original Deflect Attack ability. And this is a straight up better version of the version from Way of the Astral Self because it automatically allows you to reduce the damage and then you can spend a focus point to redirect it at someone. Now it's up to your DM if your DM wants to really be nice to you and allow you to combine the 2 damage reductions, but they do have the same name, and generally if 2 features have the same name in D&D, one of them is going to take precedent. Then at 14th level of monk, you get Disciplined Survivor. So now you have proficiency in all saving throws. And if you just so happen to fail any saving throw, you can spend 1 focus point to re-roll it, but you got to take the new roll. At 15th level of monk, you get Perfect Focus. So if you roll initiative and you don't use your Uncanny Metabolism feature, you regain a number of focus points equal to whatever is needed to bring you up to a minimum of 4 focus points. So if you have 3, you only gain 1 back. It's just making sure it's not just topping you off with a bunch of focus points when you already have plenty. It's just if you're running really low, it makes sure that you have at least 4. Then at 16th level of monk, you get another ability score improvement. So we're going to go ahead and boost up our dexterity again, maxing that out, at least for now. Then at 17th level of monk, your martial arts die increases from a D10 to a D12, which is the highest damage dice you could usually deal in D&D. And I'm very happy they made this improvement in 2024. And you also get another feature from your subclass called Awakened Astral Self. So as a bonus action, you can spend 5 focus points to summon absolutely everything, including this feature. And once it's awakened, you get Armor of the Spirit, giving you a bonus +2 to your armor class. And your armor class is already 20 from your unarmored defense. So now you have a 22 armor class, but that's still going to get improved very shortly. And you get the feature Astral Barrage. So you can actually make 3 attacks as your main attack action, as long as you're making all of your attacks with your astral arms, which as this character, we would be doing. And considering this mixes with the newer features of being a monk, you can now attack 3 times as your action, and if you use Flurry of Blows, you can attack 3 times as your bonus action, giving you a whopping 6 attacks, all of them dealing a D12 plus your dexterity or wisdom modifier. And there's other random ways to boost up that damage if you want to. Then at 18th level of monk, you get Superior Defense. So at the start of your turn, you can expend 3 focus points to give yourself resistance to all damage except for force damage for 1 minute, or until you get completely incapacitated. This replaced the older feature that basically turned you invisible and did the same thing, but the turning invisible part never quite fit as well, so I like this slight adjustment. Then at 19th level of monk, you get an epic boon, and we're going to go ahead and take the Boon of Fortitude. This allows us to increase one ability score by 1 point, so we're going to go ahead and boost up our Constitution by 1, and we get the feature Fortified Health. So your hit point maximum is increased by another 40 points on top of your already massive hit point total thanks to your tough feat. Then on top of this, whenever you regain any health, you get an additional amount of health regained equal to your Constitution modifier. But you can only use that part of the feature once per turn. But still, if you got somebody healing you, that's just gonna massively boost the amount of healing they can do, because that means they can just chip away with the smallest amount of healing they want, and it'll still help that much more thanks to your con modifier. And then at 20th level of monk, you get Body and Mind. And this is very similar to the Barbarian feature Primal Champion, because now it increases your dexterity and wisdom modifier by 4 points each, as well as their maximum. So they're both 24. And you have to remember how much this is gonna stack. So now with Way of the Astral Self, you can have 3 attacks as your action and 3 attacks as your bonus action thanks to Flurry of Blows. Each one of those attacks is gonna have a +7 to the attack and damage rolls, on top of the fact that the damage rolls are already gonna be a D12. Then on top of that, you have Unarmored Defense, which is 10 plus your dexterity modifier of +7 and your wisdom modifier of +7. So that makes your armor class 24, but thanks to Way of the Astral Self, it becomes 26, thanks to the Armor of the Spirit, making you basically unhittable by attack rolls. You are proficient in all saving throws, so you're going to be able to save on most of your damaging effects that would come at you. You have evasion, so if you have to make a dex save, chances are you're going to take 0 damage, and you're insanely mobile on top of that with the insane speed that monks have, because now you have 60 feet of movement and you can use Step of the Wind if you need to. Monks are just generally kind of busted if you use the right mixture, but I love this build. I was basically just finding an excuse to make a monk when I knew that the new season of Arcane was coming out, so I figured why not mix the two. But if there's anything you do differently in this build, let me know in the comments down below, and if you want access to the character sheet for this build or any of my other builds, feel free to check out my Patreon, linked in the description down below, where I have character sheets for all of my builds, including some builds and videos that got deleted from YouTube thanks to some copyright issues with Japan not having fair use laws. But if you want access to all that, and if you want to be just as awesome as some of these people scrolling on by, you can go ahead and check that Patreon out, or I have some especially awesome player character patrons: Vicart, Craig Withy, Alexander White, Ravelord, Nicole Biliak, The Holy 999s, Christopher Sams, Dark of Skies, Barrows Cruel, Felix Ulick, The One 0586, Kevin Shirley, That Funny Man 57, CGC 2014, Panda Milkshake, Karke Kitsune, Decker Joint, Z13, Viral Naravar, Daniel Galvin, and Salvador. Then there's the Dungeon Master level patrons that I play D&D with over on Twitch: Brian Dunn, Dante Dixon, T Brownie, Julia B. De Oliveira, Shane Gilroy, Daniel Sattler, Command ZX, GameStake, and Devin Happy. And if you made it all the way to the end of this video, let me know by hitting that like button. And I'll be here hoping you roll at least 3 nat 20s in your next D&D session, especially if you want to dodge all the ridiculous messages that come through on League of Legends and play as Vi from League of Legends and the show Arcane in Dungeons & Dragons.